Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at another BT04 deck, and this time it is going to be a yellow Mastimon deck, just because Mastimon got a new promo that interacts with her relatively nicely in the form of this new Gatomon, which is coming out in the anniversary pack that is coming out alongside of BT04. So between this promo and a whole bunch of other really powerful yellow tools that they're getting in BT04, I definitely think a yellow version of Mastimon is definitely looking to be relatively strong and a really fun deck to be playing with. So, going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Upamon. So, Upamon is a really fantastic Digitama for the deck just because of how much power and potential this card brings to the deck. So what this card is doing is it has a nice inheritable ability of when attacking once per turn. If we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to draw 1 card. So in this style of deck, it isn't exactly hard to get to 3 or fewer cards in our security and remain a relatively decent security count, so Upamon is going to allow us to draw more often than not. And then as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck goes, I'm choosing to run 1 copy of the new Coromon. So what this Coromon is doing is it has a really nice when attacking ability. Once per turn, if our security is 3 cards or less, then we get to minus 1000 DP on one of the opponent's Digimon till the end of the turn. So as far as condition-wise, it's doing the exact same thing as Upamon, where we really are wanting to be rewarded for being at that 3 security threshold, and Coromon rewards us by doing that by allowing us to add minus 1000 DP to the opponent's Digimon, so that way we could utilize it in some various different ways, which is still pretty decent. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Salamon. So this Salamon is a pretty decent card to be running in this style of deck because she has this very powerful on-delete ability, where if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to recover 1. So like I said before, it's really easy for us to get to 3 or fewer cards in our security, so we want to make sure that we have a good, healthy, and easy way to maintain our security. So this Salamon is definitely really good at fitting that role. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lotmon. So Lotmon is another really powerful rookie for the deck to be playing around with because she has this really good on-play ability where we get to check the top card of our security stack, and then we get to add that card to our hand, and then if we add that card to our hand, then we also get to draw 1 card. So what this card is doing is it's basically allowing us to draw from our security and our deck, thus reducing the amount of cards in our security, making it that much easier to get to that 3 security threshold, while also gaining us card advantage at the same time. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Bushi Agumon. So Bushi Agumon is in the deck because he adds a lot of extra power and pressure to the deck. So what he's doing is he has the Rush ability, where what this ability states is this Digimon can attack the same turn it is playing. So the whole idea is to play this card, and then you're able to utilize his Rush ability to swing right away with the card, thus making him a really good aggro tool for the deck. Yes, he does have a relatively high play cost, but the deck has some very easy and efficient ways of being able to get him out, and we could then utilize his Rush ability to add some extra pressure onto the opponent or to close out games. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lucemon. So Lucemon is another very powerful level 3 that we have access to in the deck because it has a really powerful on-play ability where we get to recover 1. So similar to Salamon, the whole idea of this card is just to utilize the fact that it's a low-level card that can help maintain our security and keep it as healthy as possible. And then on top of which, he has a really unique ability where while we have 10 or more cards in our trash, we could play this card from our hand for basically 5 instead of the 13 normally. So again, similar to like Bushi Agumon, we have ways of making this card even more efficient to play. So that's the big reason why this card is in the deck. But we do have to note that he does have an ability that basically prevents him from digivolving or being a digivolution source. So we do have to keep that in mind, that if we see this card, we can't necessarily utilize it truly as a rookie, but for all intents and purposes, it's in here just because it is a very powerful level 3 that we have access to. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Pulsemon. So Pulsemon is another very powerful rookie for the deck to be playing around with because he has this really great on playability, where if we have 3 or more security, then we get to draw 1 card, and then if we have 3 or less security, then we get to gain 1 memory. But the magical thing about this card is if we have exactly 3 memory, then we get both abilities. So we have some very easy ways at manipulating our own security, so making the most out of Pulsemon no matter what stage of the game we're in is very, very good, just because we can utilize this card in various different ways, all depending on what our security is looking like. But regardless, the fact that he's still a very powerful rookie with a good on-play ability is the sole reason why we're running him. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gatomon. So this is the BT02 version of Gatomon, and this Gatomon is looking to be pretty decent for the deck just because it has some high synergy with Mastimon. So what this card is doing is it has 2 abilities. Its first ability is a on-play ability, where if we have a purple Digimon in play, then we get to minus 4000 DP on one of the opponent's Digimon till the end of the turn. So Mastimon is a purple Digimon, so the easiest way to get this ability off is to res this version of Gatomon from our trash, utilizing Mastimon's res ability, and then the on-play ability will trigger and minus 4000 DP on one of the opponent's Digimon. So this is just a pretty decent card to just stack and combo with, and that's really the only reason why it's in the deck, but it does have another really decent ability where during your turn, when one of your other Digimon is deleted, then this Digimon gets plus 3000 DP for the turn. So the whole idea is, outside of the fact that it combos with Mastimon, if this card is just sitting on the field, then you're just going to swing with one of your rookies, and if one of your rookies dies, then you get to gain the 3000 boost, which is pretty decent, making this card a lot more aggressive than it normally would be. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Growlmon. So this yellow version of Growlmon, or I guess orange version of Growlmon, is pretty decent just because it has a good inheritable effect and is one of the few Digimon that have a good inheritable effect on the champion level for yellow. So what its inheritable ability is doing is during your turn, while we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. So this is just really nice just because yellow doesn't exactly have the best ways of DP boosting their Digimon, and the fact that the condition is having 3 or fewer cards in our security to get the 1000 DP boost is very easy for the deck to meet, so that just makes Growlmon a really powerful inheritable ability to have with the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Piddomon. So Piddomon is just an absolutely fantastic Digimon for this deck just because it is a blocker. So not only does this card fill that dedicated blocker slot, but on top of that, it also fills that low-cost Evo card to allow us to be very tempo efficient, making it that much easier to get to our higher stages with. So this card is just a really powerful card because it's fulfilling those 2 roles. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Gatomon. So this is the new anniversary promo version of Gatomon, and this Gatomon, similar to the other one, has really high synergy with Mastimon, thus making it a really good card to include in, a Mastimon deck. So what this card is doing is during the opponent's turn, while you have a purple Digimon in play, this Digimon gains the blocker ability. So similar to how the other one wants Mastimon to be in play to be paired up with it, this will gain the blocker ability where the other one will act as some removal. So it's definitely nice to see the difference in variety in abilities there. And then on top of which, this also has another really powerful on-play ability where if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to recover 1. So not only is this card keeping our security as healthy as possible, it is also acting as a pseudo blocker as long as Mastimon's on the field, thus giving us another new tool for the Mastimon deck to be utilizing in some various different ways. But regardless, this card is definitely a really good card to be running for the Mastimon deck. Next, onto the ultimates, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Sirenmon. So Sirenmon is just a Tech 1 of ultimate just because it has a very low play cost and a very low evo cost, just making it a very tempo efficient card. But we definitely want to see the abilities on our other ultimates because the abilities for our ultimates are very, very powerful. So we definitely want to max out those so that way we could see them as consistently as possible. But in the off chance that we don't see any, then Sirenmon is still just really nice because it's an easy card to get up into our mega levels with. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Angewomon. So this is the BT03 version of Angewomon, and this version of the card is super powerful because of her 2 big abilities. Her first ability is an innate ability, where it's when digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gains security attack -2 until the end of your opponent's next turn. So the whole idea on this part of the ability is to just make sure that you're keeping your security as healthy as possible, and preventing them from dealing security damage is definitely a good way of doing that. But the big thing that we're really trying to utilize the card for is more for her second ability, which is her inheritable ability, where when attacking, if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to play 1 yellow level 3 Digimon from our hand for free. So as we can see, we have a whole bunch of really powerful and really impactful level 3s that have some really good abilities that we want to be utilizing, and being able to utilize Angewomon's effect to play any of them for free is just super strong. So both of those elements combined just make playing Angewomon a very powerful card for the deck. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Wargrowlmon. So this version of Wargrowlmon is really powerful for the deck because he has 2 good abilities. His first ability is a Digiburst ability, where we get to pitch 2 of our evolution sources to -4000 DP on one of the opponent's Digimon for the turn. So this is just acting as some really good DP reduction, and we can utilize the Digiburst ability to pitch our lower levels to make sure that we could get them in the trash for Mastimon's ability to go off, so that way we have Mastimon targets, which has some really good synergy with Mastimon there. And then on top of which, it has a second ability, which is its inheritable ability, where during your turn, if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then this Digimon gets +1000 DP. So this is just another way of DP boosting our Megas, which is, again, really powerful because Yellow doesn't have super efficient ways of doing it, and the condition is super easy to meet to get the +1000 DP boost. Next, onto the Megas, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Mastimon. So Mastimon is the key card of the deck and is what the entire deck is centered around, just because of how powerful we can make her ability. So what she's doing is she has a really powerful when digivolving ability, where you get to trash the top card from both players' security stacks, and then we get to play 1 purple or yellow Digimon that's level 4 or lower from our trash for free. So this is really powerful because of all of the different lines of play that we could set up, on top of which she is burning the opponent's security, which is really good, and she's also helping decrease our security, so that way we could reach that 3 security threshold to trigger a lot of our abilities off. But the fact that Mastimon just has so much combo potential with this deck, and there's so many lines of play that are just really powerful because of Mastimon, is the main reason why we're running this card. So one really powerful combo that you could think about utilizing Mastimon for is utilizing Wargrowlmon and his Digiburst ability to pitch, let's just say, Gatomon and whatever rookie we feel like, and then we get a -4000 off of Wargrowlmon. Then we can Digivolve into Mastimon, then Mastimon's ability will go off, and then we could res Gatomon, and then Gatomon's ability will go off, and we can -4000 on something else, so that's a -8000 off of that combo, and we get to spawn an extra body on board, which is really powerful. But that's just one example on how you could utilize a lot of your cards to make some very powerful and very efficient lines of play. And then the last Mega of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Kentarosmon. So Kentarosmon could really be anything you feel like you want to be. I just feel like for what the deck is trying to do, Kentarosmon is a really nice fit for this slot, just because he has a really good when digivolving ability, where we could choose up to 5 of the opponent's Digimon and then give them security attack -2 until the end of the opponent's next turn. So we use this in a more aggressive way, where we're just trying to keep our security as healthy as possible while we're trying to aggress onto their security. So this card stacked up with a whole bunch of our other cards could just be very powerful. And then on top of which, he has a good on delete ability, where we get to choose one of the opponent's Digimon and give it -11,000 DP until the end of the turn. So we just want to use this card very aggressively to keep swinging into the opponent's security until they do something about it, and then when they do, there's a very high chance that they're going to lose a Digimon for trying to react or respond to this card, and that just makes him a really decent card to be playing around with, especially since, again, his first ability just tries to stall out the game, so that way we can build a big or powerful enough of a board state to just aggress onto the opponent. Next, onto the option cards, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Glorious Burst. So Glorious Burst, for all intents and purposes, is going to be the big hard removal card of the deck because its main ability allows us to minus 12,000 DP to one of the opponent's Digimon until the end of the turn. We don't really care about reducing its cost if we have any Tamers out because we're not really playing a whole lot of Tamers. We just want to utilize the fact that it could remove up to 12,000 DP, so that way we could clear a whole bunch of different Digimon in the game with. And we don't care the fact that it doesn't have a security ability, just because we have ways of looking and digging through our security, and if Mastimon and some of our other cards burn off the top, then we don't feel that bad because this card really wasn't doing anything in the security anyway. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Blinding Light. So Blinding Light is going to be, for all intents and purposes, the Hammer Spark of the deck, where we're just utilizing the fact that it has a 0 play cost, so that way we're just able to use it whenever we want. To just use its main ability of being able to trash the top card of our security, then we get to gain 2 memory. So this is really powerful because it's reducing our security count, so that way we can hit that 3 threshold that much easier, and it's gaining us 2 memory over 1 memory, so that way we could make it more powerful plays possible, just because we have more memory to be working with. And what's really busted about this card is the fact that we don't have to trash a security card to get the 2 memory, so even if we're sitting at 0 memory, we could still utilize this card to just gain 2 memory for free, which is just really, really powerful. The only downside is it doesn't have a security effect, but similar to why we don't care about Glorious Burst not having a security effect, applies to how this card works as well. And then the last card of the deck is going to be the only Tamer of the deck, and that's going to be 3 copies of TK. So TK is a really important card because he is our memory fixing Tamer of the deck, so always being at 3 memory is really, really important. And then on top of which, he has a really nice on-play ability that just allows us to look at our security and then add a yellow card among them into our hand, and then if we do, we get to recover 1. So the only card this doesn't recover off of is if we take Mastimon, but its whole intent and purpose is to try to look for a lot of our other pieces to make the deck as consistent as possible, making sure we could always see what we need, and just having the information on what's in our security definitely can change our lines of play depending on what we see and what we're able to grab. And then there's just a whole bunch of other cards that you could think about utilizing with the deck to really make it your own or double down on certain synergies you feel like is worth playing. So you could play a couple of other purple cards. So Wizardmon, the fact that it interacts with yellow Digimon is a big reason why you'd consider playing it. And then on top of which, you could also consider Chimeramon, just because you could still utilize Chimeramon to Digivolve up into Mastimon, and you could use Chimeramon's removal ability to some very devastating degrees, and we still have a couple of cards that we definitely can make good use out of Chimeramon's self-sacrificing effect for. There's just some other on-play effects in the lower levels that we could think about utilizing. So Piddomon being able to recover 1 is really nice. Then we could play the whole Peter Tink combo if we really felt like it. And then we could even think about using Makomon just as some extra DP reduction. Then as far as some other ultimates go, we could think about playing a little bit more recovery with Magna Angewomon, and Magna Angewomon also has another inheritable effect that DP boosts our Digimon. Or we could play more of a Shine Greymon route and run a little bit more Tamers, just because there are some very powerful yellow Tamers that we have access to that we could play just past TK. So being able to utilize Rise Greymon to just not only help deal some extra damage in its inheritable, but also play our Tamers for free is definitely really good. And then as far as some other megas that you could think about running, if you want to run more removal heavy, then you could think about utilizing Slash Angewomon and Shine Greymon. So they have 2 very powerful removal effects. Even Wargrowlmon has some other very powerful removal effects on top of multi-attacking, on top of reducing our own security. So all 3 of these megas have some very powerful synergy with the deck. And then on top of that, we also have access to some level 7s. So if we really wanted to, we could think about utilizing Millenniumon, and we could also think about utilizing Chaosmon Volderarm if we really wanted to, all depending on the type of cards we want to play to support the fact that we're playing these. And then another really powerful option card we could think about playing is Eden's Javelin. And then some other Tamers that we could think about utilizing just because they synergize with trying to be at 3 or less security is we could utilize Kari because she could gain us a memory for doing that. And we could utilize Tai because he'll give us plus 1,000 DP. And if we have DP reduction, then we could utilize his ability also to just passively gain some memory as well. But as far as the deck is concerned, this is just what I settled on, and definitely what I think a good Mastimon base would look like. And like I said before, there's just a whole bunch of room for customization, all depending on what you want to gain out of the deck. But I definitely think Mastimon is a really powerful card now more than ever, just because we got a whole bunch of new tools, not only just in yellow, but in purple as well, if you want to build a purple variant of her too. But regardless, she's just a really powerful card with a whole bunch of flexibility and ways to build her, and she's definitely a really powerful and really fun deck to play. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, I'll have the deck list down in the description below, and also down in the description will be a TCG player affiliate link. So when you use that affiliate link to buy cards from TCG Player, some of that money will end up going to supporting me in the channel. And as always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.